Alright, today we're going to be doing the front brake pads on a 2002 Toyota RAV4. Stay tuned. Alright, so the first thing we want to do, just like always, let's go ahead and get it jacked on up. Put the jack stand right about there. Put the jack probably right around here. That should be good. We'll get her lifted up. We'll get that wheel off. Also, go ahead and set your parking brake so that your vehicle doesn't start to roll when you're jacking it up. Alright, looks like we got her off the ground. Put that right there. Lower it on down. And I'm going to turn the steering wheel all the way to the left because the brake caliper's on the front, and that's going to give me better access to the bolts. Alright, now we want to get us a 21 millimeter. Take all of these off. Make sure you don't lose your lug nuts. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and remove this bottom bolt here. Set that to the side. Then we can lift this up. May need a pry bar, but it should swivel up like that, and then we can get that piston pushed in. Alright, so I did use my pry bar right under here. That's able to get that to swivel up like that. Then we can just slide it out, set it up here on top of the rotor. We'll go ahead and put that back on. There we go. And we're gonna need to get that bad boy out of there too. It's pretty stuck. Love it when that happens. No matter. Get these pads out, see what they look like. Man, that was real close to the rotor. Luckily, it's not grinding or anything. The customer has declined the rotors. Probably best to always replace them. But, you know, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do, you know. If these were being ground into, I would have probably declined the job, but since they have a smooth surface still, it's not going to cause any premature wear on the new brake pads, so I'll go ahead and do it. Alright, so I was able to get this bottom one out by just putting a 17 millimeter socket against it with my gun here. Gave it a spin because the head is a 17 millimeter and it wasn't too bad. Cleaned them both up. Now we're going to go ahead and put some fresh brake grease on. Before we put the grease on, I'm going to go ahead and get this piston pushed back in with this tool. You just keep going back and forth and it'll eventually push it all the way back inside. Obviously much more difficult to do with one hand, but you get the idea. Okay, so we got that piston pushed in. We got our new pads right here. It did not come with any hardware. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I actually do not mind when that happens because I've noticed a lot of times when I replace this hardware up here, the new pads don't want to fit in. And my theory is because rust builds up on the caliper bracket over time. These get thinner over time because your pads are like rubbing against it over and over and over again. So this metal should in theory be getting thinner while rust is building up underneath it. So when you put a new shim on there that has not been worn down, it often makes it where the pad does not fit. And if it does fit, it's extremely tight and it has no movement up here or down here. And to me, that does not promote very long brake pad life if your pads are not able to move freely in this area. So a lot of times I'll put those new shims on there, the pads don't fit, and I end up just putting the old ones back on, cleaning them up a little bit, and the new pads sure do slide right in with no problem. So I think unless you're going to actually take the time and grind down the underside of the caliper bracket here where those shims go and really clean that up real good every single time, which unfortunately I don't have the ability to do as a mobile mechanic. I don't have those kinds of shop equipment, but unless you're going to do that, a lot of times I've noticed that those new pads do not want to fit in there. Whereas you can see right here, if I take this new pad with the old shims and we try to put it in, I bet it'll fit if I can get the dang thing lined up. Yeah, there we go. I just had to line it up. It fits pretty well though. I can't tell you how many times that I've had an issue with new, sorry, I had to straighten that up. I've had so many issues with these shims where the pads don't fit, or somehow the new one doesn't snap on properly or something. It ends up scraping the rotor, and then you drive off and you have to come back and mess with it again. So, you know, a lot of times if I can get away with it, I will try to not replace those, because the ones that I've got on there that were new and I forced it to make the pads, you know, fit in there, I just didn't really have a good feeling about it afterwards. Even though I replaced all the parts, you know, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Have a bad feeling because you didn't replace these and left them the old ones, or have a bad feeling because you replaced everything but the pad has no movement and you feel that it might wear out? So it's kind of one of those situations where it's not great either way, but this is just kind of my 2 cents on that particular topic. Alright, so now we got some fresh grease on the top and on the bottom. This one's sliding finally. Still not great, but better, a whole lot better than it was, and I don't feel that there's going to be any issues with that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. We'll slide that bad boy in there. We'll get the caliper slid back over, and we'll put our bolt back in. Okay, and then once you finish up, it should look pretty much just like this. You got your bottom bolt back in, tightened up. You've put some lubrication both here and here. And you got your new pads in, you got your piston pushed in all the way. Next thing you want to do is go ahead and put your wheel back on. Alright, and then once you got your wheel back on and your lug nuts zipped down, the other front wheel should still be on the ground, so you can go ahead and torque this wheel to around 80 foot-pounds. And then once you get done with that, you bring all your tools around to this side and repeat the exact same procedure. Once again, on this side, I'd say they got pretty much the max life out of those pads, but thankfully the rotors have not been ground into. And that's pretty much the end of this one. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell all your friends about me, because there's a whole lot more of these where this came from. Have a great day.